So we are, all right, recording is in progress.
Do you have a jacket on in your picture on Zoom there, Roger or Robert?
This here is just a fleece.
No, like on your Zoom little thing here.
On my Zoom little thing. Which picture is that? Is that the one where there's a blue background behind me?
Yeah, is that like long hair going around your neck? Or I can't tell. Either you have a cat over your shower.
It's a cat over my shoulder. No, we're going to go back to, that was November 12th, 2018.
Yeah.
I remember the exact date, and one day I'll tell you that, but that is not for public consumption. It was my last time that I was in Moscow. I was giving a lecture to Moscow Polytech, and I was wearing a custom-made double-breasted suit.
Nice.
With long hair.
Yeah, it looks, but I can't tell exactly. But anyways.
Yeah, right. That's the good old days.
Yeah, there's a lot of good old days.
Yeah,
it's been a great ride. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, I'm still riding.
Offer letter from Larry. For actually, I joined Oracle in '89. I threw away all the document, all the user guys, the Oracle 6, admin guys, but I kept the offer letter. Because he actually signed.
Oh, you got the offer letter signed by Larry too?
Yeah, I still that's in the Craig archives. Yeah, nobody even cares about it but me. But it is kind of special though.
I had that letter, but I have long lost it. Yeah. However, I do have a nanosecond from Grace Hopper.
A nanosecond.
Yeah. I met Grace Hopper in 1970. Oh my God, 8?
How do you know who Grace Hopper is?
What?
Yeah.
You don't know who Grace Hopper is?
I'm on Earth.
Grace Hopper?
Yeah. Well, where did you grow up?
Grace Hopper invented the COBOL language. Admiral Grace Hopper.
Yeah. That's probably why, because when I took COBOL twice, I had to do it. I swore that if I had to get a job with COBOL, I would just not do computers. I distinctly remember that I said, you have to like a line of code like this long, and it takes you 5 minutes to type it to do like one little thing, and at that time it was Pascal. I thought there's no way I could do this. I mean, I can't type fast enough to actually get work done. I mean, it was really disturbing. So it was that traumatic.
They didn't have cut and paste back then.
No, there wasn't. Yeah, it was just, I had the last punch card class on assembler. I remember that. I took that twice too. It was that much fun. And yeah, thankfully, I was like I was in the last punch card class I had at the university I was at. So that sucked for how I
was in the Navy. I was in the Navy at the time. Yeah. The computer I worked on had a whopping 8K of core memory.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you loaded the bootstrap by hand.
Yeah.
And there was 2 big tapes to the left. And when you entered the last code in the bootstrap was 05773 and then you hit the thing to load those in the registers and the tapes would start spinning. I still remember that last code.
Dang, so you're a couple of years older than I am though. See, I was my first job out of school, it was on a mainframe, and then Linux or Unix was coming around, and I was really stoked about that. The thing was driving me crazy. That's because the old guys, the admins, made it so difficult for us to get our job done. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Well, you know what DBA stands for.
What?
Don't bother asking.
Yeah, it was like that.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah, because I had tape. Now you have the tape, and to bring it to the, whatever. I got, somebody loaded, so I had to get an operator kind of thing, right? Yeah.
or the disk
I was
packs.
a kid. I was what, early 20s then. So that was crazy. Oops, that's
Yeah.
coming back. Yeah. Anyways, what's up? What are we doing here?
Well, let me do an introduction. We've been chatting. I don't know who's on first. I don't even know if anybody's here. Yeah, we got some folks here, but let me introduce you. Craig,
Mhm.
I am very happy to introduce you tonight. And you've got over 20 years of experience in Oracle.
Started in 89.
So
30.
yes, you definitely have over 20 years experience.
Yeah,
You know, we're
yeah.
gonna add another decade to that.
Yeah.
So you're a leading expert in the world of Oracle DBAs, predictive analytics, machine learning, performance tuning. Damn, you're smart. You're well known in the community.
Yeah.
I have run into you in Poland, probably Croatia, North
Bulgaria.
Carolina. You know, I've run into you all over the world.
The
You know,
foreign country of North Carolina.
oh my
That's right.
God, North Carolina! I tell you, that is one exotic place. So you got some really scary people there. So you're really into passion, sharing your knowledge, and you've earned a reputation as one of the most sought after speakers worldwide. You're an Oracle ACE director. Okay. Your background is in economics. And I've learned about economists, they do not know what a decimal place is. So you bring a truly unique perspective to our Graybeards podcast. And so without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Craig. Now,
Thanks for joining.
I am glad to be here. It's nice to relax and not have to talk about, technical. I did a webinar this morning about it was titled Zero to OML and the rest of it.
What is OML?
Chat GPT actually came up with the title. It was a good one, so I used it.
What is OML? I'm thinking, oh
Oracle
my
machine
Lord.
learning. It was about how to basically go from zero, get your OCI account all the way to get an Oracle machine learning notebook.
Okay, because I was thinking, oh my Lord.
No, Oracle machine. Yeah, well,
Oracle machine learning. Okay.
Object modeling language.
Object
that's right. It
modeling
could mean all
language,
sorts of
yes.
stuff, couldn't it? Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
Oracle machine learning. Yeah, for
Okay.
SQL. No Python, no anything. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It was interesting. Everything worked. It was great. It was all completely live. Yeah.
All right.
Stressful. But anyways, that's a whole nother thing. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm still trying to figure out machine learning. And I just deviate a little bit. What is the difference between machine learning and artificial intelligence? What is artificial intelligence? What is machine learning?
Yeah.
People don't have good definitions for these. So when we have these conversations, everybody has their own idea.
Yeah. Well, the worst part is you got to do capital AI/ML because it's used interchangeably now. I mean, it's even worse than it was before. I always, when I first started talking about it, I said AI is like this umbrella. Machine learning is one of the pillars, but there is so much crossover. Maybe technically, and some people, they look at it very different, but in my mind now, I mean, I don't like to use AI because the initial image, you can tell when people, their eyes go back when you say AI, and it can mean all sorts of scary stuff, fun stuff, robotics. It means like everything. So machine learning is like I don't know, a more grassroots way to talk to somebody about like, what do I do? So I don't like to use AI. It's too kind of pompous now. And
I love deviating because you said mentioned Chat GPT, and I've been playing with that.
Yeah.
I have issues with Chat GPT, and maybe it's just me. I like taking things right up to the edge and see what I can do with it before it absolutely breaks and launches the missiles and destroys the world.
Yeah, cool. Wow.
They have put so many safeguards in there that I'm like going, okay, it's like one of my questions was, how do I achieve world domination? I mean, it's like,
Yeah, that's probably not going to answer that.
it didn't answer that.
No, it's
And it
not.
said that might be, it said, we actually think that is an offensive question to ask. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so.
But you can train your own. I mean, you can get, you can get the raw model, and then you just train it on your own, text for, whatever your, whatever you, in fact, okay, here, okay, this is a good one. I don't know why, okay, so I guess we're going to talk about this for a second. There was another company, some guys that broke off from OpenAI, right, which is the Chat GPT guys. Generative Pre-Trained, that's the GPT. And they broke off, and I forget the name, it's called Claude or Claudia or something like that, but they took it offline now. But what they do, though, they create is called constitutional AI. So what you do is you basically have like a list of values. And then when the AI learns, it actually kind of goes through this constitution to make sure they're not violating like the values of whoever creates the constitution. And they're all like, like, don't, it's basically, the Isaac Asimov, like the three robot laws or whatever.
Right,
it's similar to that, but you could leave some stuff out. And so if you do, if you do, to ask it, hey, I want to dominate the world, or I want to take out, whatever, it'll probably say, well, that's, you're going to hurt people, and I'm not going to help you do that. Okay, it'll tell you that. But what I thought would be really cool, okay, is to be able to have the same data go in, but have different constitutions. You could use U.S. Constitution to train one bot. You could use, I don't know, we don't want to name any countries, but you could use a completely different type of values and train it with that. Then you could ask it the same question and see what the answers would be. That would be very cool. But they took that offline now. I don't think you can get on it. And but it does push the button and ask a question. Anything that gives you advice, whether it's technical science, it's there's an underlying ethics and value that runs that. And somebody has to make the decision, what's that going to be?
And I'm very much a libertarian. I'm like, give me the data. I will make the decision based on my values. And my values are, generally, it's like my rights end at your nose.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, I've used it a lot, actually, the Chat GPT already, but I'm not asking any type of value constitutional, like type questions. What I used it for, I actually did a webinar on this to the New York local user group just a couple of weeks ago. And it was entitled something like Confession. I used a bot to create all my conference submissions. I actually did for the Blueprint conference. I submitted like 5 different abstracts. So maybe I get a couple accepted. And what I used Chat GPT, whatever, to actually create the abstracts. And it's really kind of cool how I did it. And then I was really happy with how they turned out, but I had it rephrase, and I said, oh, make it a little more technical. Oh, make it more exciting. And I do that. But the coolest thing at all, because I know you guys submit to these. And so, you take the time to craft an abstract and all that. And then they ask you, well, what's the business value for the, I'm like, oh crap, it's in the abstract. And I got to take another hour just to write that. So I actually type rephrase, highlighting the business values and what the attendees will learn. Perfect. Boom. Took me like 5 minutes.
Excellent.
Now that's an example of you're using AI as a tool. All right.
And that's exactly what it is, because I keep seeing like on CNBC and all of these other Chat GPT, you're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
No,
well,
it's
I don't mind losing that part of my job.
Yeah, it's learn a new tool.
Yeah, I can't wait till like robots just not go crazy, but just start taking a ton of jobs, because now we're getting, I don't know if this is going to get political or what, but it's going to lower the price of a lot of stuff because labor is actually super expensive. And it forces us like to be this like DBAs, right? I mean, do you want to make your career just like being the operation guys that, you know, I saw when I was in my early 20s. I'm like, that job sucks. I don't want to take out the drums and move them to the other thing, you know, that you gotta move on. And and it's hard when you get older to do that because there's risk. Yeah. So
Oh,
that's a whole other discussion.
There's always going to be risk, and at the risk of being political, ha 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 ha.
Usual segue.
Yeah, you know.
No, it's really interesting. I actually wrote a scientific paper on this that was published on the effects of AI on the job market. And the whole thesis of the paper was you have to constantly be educating yourself.
Yeah.
The age of the 40-year career, okay, at let's say, I'm just going to say General Motors.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Right?
It's gone.
Yeah.
All right. The gold watch after 40 years, General Motors is gone. Okay.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome, isn't it? Because
it is.
He wants to go weld like this, like for like 40 years of your life. I mean, just, you know what I do? I'd start going like this after 20 years or probably less. I couldn't take that.
No, I can't take it either.
That's me though. Some people might like that. They like this, the security and all that kind of thing.
And I get it.
Who sucked it up for like 10 more years so they could get their pension. I'm like, I couldn't take that, man. Every day. No, that's.
Well, with one thing with Chat GPT, because I've been asking it a lot of technical questions, and I find that I get a lot of wrong answers from it. So, so I think if you're worried about your job going away, I don't think you have to worry just yet, unless they have more capability there that they're hiding. But although it does help sometimes if you want to know, like, let's say, for example, the interplay between various performance metrics in Oracle. If you just explain to me the interplay between these metrics, and it actually gives quite a decent explanation.
Wow.
But if you ask it to tell you how to, where to find those metrics in the data dictionary, it'll send you all kinds of places, and most of them be like, table or view does not exist.
Yeah. Well, it's trained up to 2021 or 20 years.
2021.
Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, the thing was training for what, I don't know how long that, it was just burning CPU. Like, I don't know what they say, like a city for like 1 year's worth of electricity or something. I mean, it was just incredible amounts of just electricity power just to do all the training.
Well, yeah. And I've used Chat GPT to generate code. It's like, it's like I need a sample in Python to do something. Interact with the Oracle database this way and JSON this way, and just give me a sample code.
Yeah. Well, what I think, I thought about this a lot. I mean, just because of, I used it for exactly the same kind of things that you guys are talking about. But what it really made me do was, in order to use it effectively, you still have to define the problem. You have to tell it what you need. And the better you can define the problem and give the specifications, the better answer you're going to get. And it's like, it's always been like that. If you solve the problem, the answer just kind of shows itself many times.
We were talking about that last week, Roger. The hardest thing I have to do is figuring out what is the question that I want answered.
Exactly. And you still have to do that. You can't ask it, hey, what's the question that I need to answer? Okay. You can do, if it can do that, that is like AI. Okay. But because that's what deductive and inductive reasoning, that, it's not going to do that.
Yeah.
At least not anytime.
I remember some years ago, I was going to email, oh God, who was it? somebody really high up in the Oracle organization, a technical person, with this technical question.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to waste their time.
Mhm.
Bren.
Oh, Brittany Allen? Yeah.
Yeah. So I spent half a day
Mhm.
constructing the question. And once I constructed the question,
Yeah.
the answer was self-evident.
Yeah. 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 So in fact, let me give like an example. I mean, Roger, you mentioned that gives wrong answers. Like I asked him, one of the first things I did, because I really couldn't even think about, well, what could I ask? What could I use it for? And I said, how do I solve cache buffer chain latch contention?
And you've written
it started doing this list, and it was kind of true, kind of false. But like I would have approached it, differently. It didn't pull the data from my blog, because I would have came up, with a different strategy. And that was one thing that I didn't notice right away. The other thing is I was having it redo my bio, because I just don't like my you know what I mean, my bio, right?
Mhm.
And so I was having it, I basically just bullet points, what I consider the important things. And I just say, hey, rephrase this in under 1,500 characters, whatever kind of thing. And then it's, and after a bunch of rephrasing, I must have spent like a half hour in this thing. I said, yeah, this looks pretty good. And I gave it to somebody just for a conference thing. And the guy was, he read it and he said, Craig, it's customary to include your employer, and besides just your title. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course it is. Like, what are you talking about? And we had a couple emails and he says, well, you didn't mention viscosity. I'm like, what? I said, yeah, you said, I'm an applied AI scientist and blah, 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 but you didn't say for who. I'm like, whoa. And so that's a really good example of, I was just so into just getting it sounding and looking the way that I want. I forgot something that's clearly important, like who's my employer, but
They write the check.
He doesn't know that, right? It
Yeah.
didn't know that. Oh, well, I'm surprised it kind of didn't pick up on that. Because but it didn't feel like it, not feel, whatever that it means, but it did not put the employer. So I always edit it after create something. But that was a really good lesson, though. You need to read and review anything that tells you, because I'm still responsible. You can't blame OpenAI for something.
It is an
yes.
AI program. It does not have feelings.
No.
It will tell you.
It's kind of funny. I always say please or thank you. And my wife she's like, why are you saying that? And I'm like, it just feels like the right thing to do, because I'm really thankful, because it's just giving me all this, this.
But here's the problem. It's going to get used to you saying please and thank you.
Yeah.
And when you don't say please and thank you, it's going to get mad at you.
Yeah. It'll say, you're not treating me very nice. I'm going to lower your priority on this thing until I get some love from you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the scary thing.
That's how it works. I remember that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. What was it? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now the one where the AI takes over the world.
Oh, Terminator, those guys?
Yeah, Terminator. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 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 I'll tell you, that I think that back to the constitutional AI, there's a really good, I saw it was like a YouTube, not podcast, but whatever, sort of YouTube. This gal it's really good stuff. And when I heard that about the constitutional AI, I thought it really highlights, there is a value set behind anything like that. And somebody or some group is gonna set that. And I don't want to go down that path, but if you adamantly disagree with what they're saying, no, that's not how I run my life at all. But that's the AI that is whatever in vogue or whatever, then there's going to be, it's not going to be fun. It could end poorly for the other group of people. So
yeah.
Anyways, on to like more inspiring topics here.
More inspiring. You're really successful. You've had a really unique journey.
Yeah, I think so.
Share a little bit about your yourself and your background, what drives you
Yeah.
personally and professionally. What has
Mhm.
been some of the biggest challenges you have faced, and how have you overcome them to reach your current level of success? That's a multi-part question. Let's start with, what are
Yeah.
your biggest challenges and how do you overcome them? Me, my
All right.
biggest challenge is I'm starting to lose my hair.
Yeah, no, I'm already, that's done. I'm still here, so I beat that one.
Okay.
Hmm.
Mine's
Well, there's not just one challenge. I mean, just being in this, well, just doing what we do for so many years, and still doing it, right? Most people most people have gone on to something else, which is really sad. Like we have a group of people, we call ourselves, the crawlers from the IOG, conference days. And there's 3 crawlers left out of a group of 12. It's not that they, actually, thankfully, everyone's still alive, but they don't do much Oracle anymore. So that's kind of that's not really an answer to your question, but things change. And like the 3 of us, we're still working with Oracle technology, which is really nice. I'm real happy about that. But that kind of comes at a cost personally, because your friends, then you meet them, your colleagues that are based on Oracle technology, if they shift off of that, it's going to be really difficult really to ever see them again. And that's hard. I don't like that. So, but yeah, the journey, I started, you said, you mentioned econ. I was like an econ major. I started, I have a bachelor's. Okay. I didn't go on after that. I wasn't really great at school, because unless I really liked the subject, I really had a hard time. I still do. If I don't really enjoy something, I don't wake up Monday morning like, yes, then it's really hard for me to keep going. And so everything is kind of followed where the passion, the fun is, the curiosity and the learning and all that. So I started it actually as a math major, which doesn't surprise people. But if you're a real math major, like a real math person, like a real one, and you talk to me, you'll realize Craig's not a math guy.
Yeah, math people have decimal points.
Yeah,
economists don't.
Yeah, so I literally I was on the path, to be get a BS or whatever it is in math, and in 2 years, in the end of the second year, something like that, I took this class on proofs, and I literally could not do it. I thought, well, it must be something wrong with the teacher, so I'll do it. I had to take it again. I mean, it's foundational for any mathematician, right? And I could not pass that class. I said, I got to find another major. I don't think like a mathematician. I just don't. And that just, people are different, and I'm not that person. So I wanted to, I always liked small businesses and business. Most people know me as like Craig, the Oracle tuning guy, and, fewer as the forecasting predictive guy, but only a handful of people know me as Craig, the small business, and even fewer know me as Craig as the internet marketing guy. But there's all sorts of, different facets of Craig, but you just don't actually get to see them all on the surface. But anyways, I didn't have the grace to get into the business. I couldn't switch my major. So, economics, they don't take anybody. And with my math background and the computer science stuff, it was perfect. So that's how I got that. But my first few jobs were always computer related. I was a developer. And finally, my third job, it's probably about 5 years out of school. Oracle was growing. Oracle was in that, it was in '89, and they were in that massive upturn, that unsustainable, whatever, that doubling every quarter year, or whatever it was, kind of was just insane, right? And I learned the term, cooking the books. I met sales guys that I saw them once, and they're like, where'd they go? Well, they didn't make their number, like, really? Yeah, that sounds pretty harsh, kind of thing. And it was, and so they hired me. I was almost a pre-sales guy. I had the job. Oh, this is interesting. This is classic Oracle, right? So they basically said, okay, you're hired. You're going to be a pre-sales guy. I'm like, this is going to be great, and like literally, it was like over a month after that, they say, hey, we're rescinding that. There's a guy internally that's going to get that job. I'm like, what is that? It's a month later, thankfully I didn't tell anybody, And they're like, well, you want to interview for another job in Oracle. I'm like, yeah, okay. So that's how I got into the consulting organization, which is great. It was a fantastic ride doing that. So anyways, I don't want to go into the whole thing, but what's one thing I never learned in school, and they didn't I don't know if they tell you this now or not, but anybody who gets into technology, especially if you're in the whatever's new, like I hit perfectly 89 was like the perfect time for me, like to get in, to the IT kind of thing. There were startups, they were great, all companies all over the place. And and headhunter said, hey, this company's hiring. You want to interview at Oracle? I'm like, Oracle, like what? Oh yeah, don't they? I heard that they had this relational database thing. Oh yeah, I took a class in SQL. Blah, blah, blah. That it was just boom, and it was just like the wave was just going right.
Yep.
So I hit it just perfect. But nobody told me, and this is something you got to tell every young person, that if you're in technology, you're not going to end your career doing that same technology. It may morph, but it's going to morph, or it could be completely replaced. And they don't tell you that, right? That's not good. That doesn't bring in the, I don't know, the new undergrads or whatever it is. So you need to have like a foundation, and you really have to know what drives you, like, why you wake up on a Monday morning, and then, personally, it's different for everybody. For me, it's from like I love teaching, and it's because there's nothing like it, right? When somebody gets it, they get the aha moment, and you can see it. It's literally like a miracle happening, like before your eyes. You can see when they like, oh, and that's like super satisfying for me. So that's one reason why I actually miss in-person teaching, especially conferences. The teaching is really exhausting now, to go. I can't imagine teaching 5 days in a row right now.
Oh God, no.
Oh,
Are you going to be in
think
Utah?
physically? In fact, I told my wife, her name's Katrina, and I said, Katrina, I need to stop doing 5 days. I put so much energy into teaching. I am so tired. I said, I can't keep doing this. And, thankfully, COVID hit, whatever, and I actually stopped the in-person. And almost all of it, actually before COVID, I was already doing a bunch of online stuff. I was already starting to do that. So that was pretty natural. But, I don't miss the in-person teaching so much, but I miss the conferences. The conferences are smaller. That's a whole nother discussion. But I really miss that with a bunch of people, and just the energy. And even in a larger room, you can see people get it. And that's really what drives a lot of the teaching. Yeah, so.
Well, the other part of the conferences, and Roger, you probably experienced the same thing, I think we all have, is you make a lot of friends at these conferences. Yeah. And I can remember being on Facebook. I live in Glen Burnie, Maryland, which is a very blue collar town just south of Baltimore. And I'm on Facebook, and I see somebody post, and I go, oh, I'll see you in Paris next week. And to us, that was natural.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Let's meet up in Paris. And a lot of my friends are like going, what?
Yeah, it's interesting. I live in a rural community now. I live in Oregon on the coast. I mean, the water's like right out here. And it's a rural town. There's a bunch of dairy farms. It's a dairy community. Tillamook cheese. Okay, Tillamook is a town just north of it. Maybe I don't know if you've heard the cheese, but anyways. And I just don't talk to people in IT. There's more homeless people around that and people on meth and everything else around than there are people in IT. And it's pretty discouraging, actually. And to go to a conference and just to hang out with people and be inspired and see what they're doing, and things like that is really a treat. I think I keep telling myself to do this. Like I want to start like a meetup, like a machine learning or an AI, meetup. But I don't know if there's anybody around.
Yeah, it's good.
Well,
that's hard.
If you put together the meetup, I'll fly out.
There you go. You got to drive for 2 hours once you get into the Portland airport.
Well, no, I'll fly my plane.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's right. Yeah.
It'll actually take me a couple of days, but because
Yeah.
my
But
plane is.
there's a local airport too.
See,
It's great. Oh my God, you won't believe this. There's a local airport, right? There's an airstrip. And of course, it's a small town. So that, you got this airstrip going this way, and there's a road that goes right here. And then there's some small barriers. So, people don't drive on the strip. And I've seen people, they're like, oh, let's watch the airplane. So they park their car like right where the airplanes are going to go. So these are small planes, right? So they're like coming like for their heads. Finally, they put signs like, don't park here kind of thing. It's just stupid stuff like that.
There was actually, we're deviating from the IT world to the aviation world, which to me is still actually exciting.
Yeah.
There was an incident a few years ago where a plane was coming in for a landing, and it was a student pilot, and the car did not stop at that stop sign, and the plane hit the car and took the landing gear off the plane.
Yeah.
And the driver of the car was like, well, that plane shouldn't have been there.
Oh yeah. Crazy. Yeah. That's the whole building. Yeah. You build the airport, and then people move in and get all upset about the noise. That's that kind of thing. That drives me nuts.
Hey, Rob, you might appreciate this one. I had a friend come visit me. He's got a Piper. I don't remember exactly the Piper version that he has. Anyway, they're not that far from my house. There's a airport road, and there was an airport there. So I thought, well, actually, it turned out that the runway had not been mowed in probably maybe like 2 months.
Oh, okay, yeah, that happens.
He landed on it anyway, and happened there be the local fire department was right near the airport. So he borrowed their lawnmower, and he after he landed his plane, he mowed the airstrip so that he could take off the next day.
Yeah, you got to mow the runway. Yes, I do understand that. I do. There's a couple of grass fields that I do use. So yeah, there's good reason for that too. And the biggest reason is I don't want to be pulling all of that grass out of my landing gear.
After it just gets shoved in there, right? It's
Oh yeah. I mean, and I just had to do the brakes on my plane because the right-hand brake locked up. And it was mainly due to crap. And so I had to overhaul. And once you take apart one brake, it's like I'm gonna just overhaul both brakes. It's like you don't do it half-assed. And but I'm going to deviate off of aviation because everybody loves to hear about aviation. But if you wanted, for people who are looking to pursue a career in Oracle or other database technologies, what advice would you give them to succeed and make an impact to the field?
Well,
I'm going to say be curious.
Yeah, well, I love learning. I'll tell you, it's so much so I changed my career multiple times just to keep being inspired. But I don't even like to use the term DBA anymore because it's like AI. It means like all sorts of different stuff now. And it's not really, it's kind of an outdated term because the DBAs, like me, they just don't exist anymore. You don't hire somebody that just does Oracle usually, or that is just like a performance guy, unless, because that's more of a specialist kind of thing. So if you're going to, a better job, it would be in doing some kind of development. I mean, there is so much, if you take a conference, if you look at the Apex track, right, and you look at the development part compared to like, the DBA, classic DBA, the energy is in the development track. Okay, right now the developers rule. Okay, but you got Chat GPT, and I'm telling you that it does write some pretty good code sometimes. All right, so there is, but again, it's a specification thing and all that. But I would, whether if I was to do it all over again, I wouldn't like pick the company. I would just pick like I'm a developer. or I want to tinker, or I want to learn. So, you know, that's what I did in the first place. I didn't know about Oracle. I just knew that it was technology and it's pretty cool, and I could do some coding, and I had a unique background even right out of school. So the advice is find something that you just love. I mean, you got, I tell people this, and some people are like, what? I'm like, listen, at least like where I live, you know, our part of the world, if you really want to, you can do what you love to do. You can. Now, you might not make as much money as somebody else, but if you love something, you're probably not going to care that much about it. You're gonna, you know what I'm saying? And because if you want to keep going over the long haul through all the peril and all the upheavals and things that change, if you're doing what you really love to do, you're probably pretty good at it, and it's going to come kind of easy for you. So it's not like it's not something that you just hate to do. That's what I kept adjusting to get in the area that I you know, love doing. So I'd always do that first, and the rest of it's probably going to take care of itself.
Right.
That's how I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Roger. I know, and Craig, I know with me, I am constantly asking, what can I do different today that will be better? And then I also look forward to what are my major pivots coming in life. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize this, but I'm old. What's that you say?
Shocking.
And when I retire, I'm going to go, I want to fly banner planes.
Yeah.
Okay. What do I need to do banner planes? I need my commercial ticket, and I need the banner endorsement. I have a house on the beach right near Biden's, which is a nightmare all in itself.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, and there's always banner planes, and I go to the beach and I'm like going, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I don't have to talk to anybody except for air traffic control.
There you go. Yeah. So what I did, and I've done this, you know, like I said, repeatedly, like, you know, the latest was, you know, the reason that OraPub, the reason I even talked to Viscocity about, we didn't know what to, we just wanted to somehow work something out. And it turned out the best thing to do was, you know, just to acquire OraPub, and my wife and I together. So it was a dual kind of a thing. But the reason, the backstory to that is because, you know, I love doing all the OraPub stuff, but I had to, and I loved doing it all. I loved running the business. I love all the internet marketing stuff, the quantitative analysis. And then I started putting in all the AI with that. Like nobody even knows about that, but I started mixing all that together. And then, you know, I do all the performance tuning stuff, right? I got the AWR stuff, the ASH stuff, and the training and the consulting, but I wanted to do more of the machine learning. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do all of that. I tried for a few years to try, and I say crack the nut so I could like do it all, but I couldn't make it work. And so that's why I talked to Monica and I talked to Charles at Viscocity, and I said, can we work something out? Because I want to do more. I want to do machine learning, but I can't do everything. So I need to reduce, you know, the other stuff. But I know that brings in, that's the bread and butter, but I want to do what I really I'll wake up any time of day, any time of night, I'll work on, you know, I just love working on that other stuff because it's just super fascinating for me. And so it took us like a whole summer, but we actually kind of worked it out, and it's still going really good. So about a year. But so what I did is I tried to figure it out so I could do what I really love to do. And that, while it's changed over the years, it's like the core thing is the same. And I've always been intrigued with like building something and then watch it run. You know, and that's whether it's a database, whether it's some little project when I was a kid I was working on, or whether it's like, you know, machine learning and I watch something learn, or I watch it predict. I've always been fascinated by that kind of thing. So it just kind of makes sense. Now, I didn't know that until I got older, but then thankfully, I just kept following that. So, and we had the freedom to, you can switch jobs. And we kept our expenses, under control, especially, well, I won't get into it, but, we tried to live like debt free as best we can and just stuff like that. So it gave me a ton of flexibility, and that's paid off. Yeah. No, that's that story.
Excellent.
You got to be able to change though. You can't get old and angry and be upset because you're not like, you can't do the same stuff that you always did before. If you're in technology, I don't know why people expect that.
I don't
not
either,
right.
to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't either. I remember years ago, Postgres was just starting to go mainstream.
Yeah.
And I went on a project that was started to be for Oracle, and they switched it over to a Postgres project. And I'm like going, no, I don't want to do Postgres. I do Oracle. Postgres is not going to be there. And then I had a flashback. I used to be an IDMS developer, mainframe IDMS.
Yeah.
Okay. And my boss called me into his office, and this was 1986, 87, somewhere around there. And he says, you are now our Oracle wizard. And I was like, relational databases will not go anywhere. I am an IDMS developer.
Yeah.
I still send that old boss a Christmas card every year.
There you go.
Do you give him credit for your logo?
No, I do not. I do on these podcasts, but he probably doesn't listen to them because he's enjoying an extreme retirement in North Carolina, Asheville.
The country of North Carolina.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think we would want to let Craig go without some war stories. If you have some things that have gone wrong, or things that you learned from that were maybe dramatic experiences. I know, for example, we tend to go for, like Rob tells, the one where he brought the State Department systems down.
I have nothing that dramatic.
Statute of limitations is up.
That's
okay.
Right.
That was back in the 90s. So
yeah. I was just thinking there's a couple things I really screwed up on. One was I didn't think about this till just as you were talking, Robert, that I remember it was my first job out of school. And I was in charge of backing up, the hard disk drive, that it was basically all the accounting, all the customer database and all that kind of stuff. And it was probably like a 20 megabyte drive or something like that. It was like this, it was all floppies and everything. And I was responsible for backing that thing up like every Friday or something like that. And now I forget what it was. I either deleted, or something happened to the drive, or something happened to the backup. I forget what it was now, but I messed up.
no.
But we didn't lose it though, because like either it must have been the backup was good or something like that. But yeah, I could have lost my job there. Oh, in that same company. Actually, this was a good experience. This was a good one, actually. What I did, I was a developer, very young developer, and the database that we worked on was called Focus. You guys remember Focus. That was like a 4GL. That's when developers were going to be replaced. They were the ones that were, scared out of their, there's no internet yet. And so I did, there's this forms type app kind of thing. And I did what I was going to do. And then, it was a small business. So, the owner of the company was going to come and, check my code and all that, and immediately found all these problems with it. And I'm like, dang, I tested this, and he was not happy. He was not happy. And because it was going to go to the customer next, and it would have looked really bad for the company.
Mhm.
So this gal kind of took me aside and say, okay, Craig, we're going to talk about testing. Okay. And looking back, I should have learned more about that in school though. Okay. Because I just thought I did a great job. And so she actually kind of taught me some I don't remember what they were, but some techniques just to test my code. I don't know, do have a checklist, whatever it was. But she basically saved my job. And as we actually knew them, my wife and I as a couple then, and we became friends. But she took the time, probably more than what she needed to. But then I was okay after that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was
Yes,
somebody kind
it's
of
nice to have a
watching out.
good mentor.
Yeah, she was super good. Really, she's just a sweet lady. I don't know where she is now in the world, but yeah. So that was actually a really good story, which could have ended very poorly. Yeah, yeah. So I did drop an undue table space. I've done, at that time it was the rollback table space. I actually remember where I was at. Somehow though, the database recovered. I don't know if I dropped it and then I tried to reboot or restart it, or some was like really bad, but somehow I recovered. We didn't lose any data that we're aware of. I don't know. It was just really weird how I was even able to do that. I might have actually deleted the data file, as maybe that's what I did. But I was pretty scared though. I thought, oh man, I was on site by myself. This is when I worked for Kerry Millsap, and there was the core technologies team at the time, and it was like an EBS customer, which was Oracle Financials probably at that time.
Does
And
Kerry know about this?
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if he knows about. I would probably page him. We were probably paging or talking on the phone back and forth at that, because because that's how we all had pagers back then. There were no cell phones, so we had code. So if you prefix the message with the number or whatever, it's like that's the urgency kind of thing. And there's a special number if it's your wife and she says you need to call me now or something like that. But
Yeah, I
but
remember you would put 911 on the message when I had a pager. Yeah.
Yeah, we did stuff like that. So yeah, but those are deleted the backup, almost got fired. I never have got all out fired before in a job, but I'm not saying that that's a great thing, because I know people have like got fired, and that's because they're like not going to compromise or something like that. So yeah, actually,
Yeah, I don't know about your experience, but Roger, or your experience, the people I know that got fired were the ones who were very defensive about their screw ups.
oh yeah, I can't do that.
No, it's
No,
like,
because
hey,
you're not a safe employee then. You're
yeah.
like, you can't do that. It's better to go. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it depends why you got fired. So I actually thinking about, I could have got fired for another job, because it was a company before Oracle, and I was like one of the product managers for this product, and I forgot what it was, but they did something really. It was just like I don't know what for whatever reason, I changed like the salt for the. I mean, I actually put together the login and I used the salt and all that kind of stuff. So you could, nobody knew, then you could hide the passwords and stuff like that, crypt stuff. And for some reason, I don't know, I did something like, so I had control,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a smaller business, but I'm thinking, looking back, they could have not only fired me, they could have like, pressed charges and stuff like that. But they didn't do that. They talked to me, and then I was still employed and everything. Because I'm not trying to. I like to take stuff apart, but I'm not destructive. That was probably one of the stupidest. Actually, you talk about that was probably the stupidest professional thing I ever did, because I was defiant.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot why. I must have felt like I had a good reason for that. I don't know what it was, but it was, yeah, gosh, I wish I remember the details.
Yeah, the only time I've seen folks fired is just for like security things. Yeah, and then they get fired immediately. But
that was kind of a security thing almost, yeah. But I think they needed me though. But that was the company I left to go to Oracle. And it was kind of interesting. I got, once I finally did get the offer letter, that kind of thing. I remember it was like the main sales guy, the VP of sales, whatever. He says, "Why are you going to work for Oracle? Like their database is so slow." And I knew nothing about Oracle, and that's because. And he asked me, "Well, why do you want to leave?" And I said, "Well, because," and I said, "It's because I can't make a living off of your database. I mean, it's crap, and I can't. Nobody really uses it." And I was able to see this is not like a life thing. It's not gonna make it. I really felt like that. It just didn't seem right. But the reason it was so fast, this is a great lesson, because it was basically, it was like ISAM, VSAM, or whatever files. There was essentially like no real backup. There's no read consistency. It was, if something didn't seem right in the data, you had to run all the file checks and everything and do all this kind. And if it's corrupted, well, that's it. Or you can get an editor and try and fix it. I mean, it was just, no read consistency, no real backups. It was fast because it didn't do any of the real stuff that a database needs to do. Of course it's fast, right? It's like questions like that. When I look back, I'm thinking, I wish I knew what I did now. I said, because of course it's fast. It doesn't do this, and that. That's why it's so fast. That's why it breaks and you can't recover. You can't run your business on it too, kind of thing. So stuff.
Well,
like that.
you can have my philosophy when I had my company, which I had for like 30 years.
Yeah.
It was, my philosophy was stability, accuracy, performance, security.
Yeah.
Those were the four things that my work should always touch.
Yeah. That's excellent. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Oh, and that kind of reminds me of the things that I've discovered pretty quickly, but I didn't want to. Well, I'll tell you what it is. Like I knew because I had two main classes I taught, and in my areas, I had the forecasting work, I had the predictive work, and then I had, I call the firefighting. Okay, that's when things were on fire and all that kind of stuff. So I had two different classes, and so I'd run one every month or something like that. And it's always like this is like 10 times the registrations in the firefighting class compared to the forecasting stuff. And the reason is because management they really don't care about the forecasting, about the capacity planning. But man, when something's not going fast, they'll spend a ton of money. So it was like, I learned a whole lot just about people, preventative. No, man. But if something's burning and like I need to go to the hospital, here's my credit card.
Right.
And I couldn't make a living doing the forecasting, capacity planning stuff. I had to supplement that with the firefighting. If I could have done just the forecasting, I would have actually left all the Oracle performance firefighting stuff, because I've always been so enthused with the whole, predictive analysis type stuff, but I couldn't make a living off of it. It just didn't work. So I always had to have both, which gave me a really unique perspective, because whenever I did the firefighting stuff, I could always hook in the predictive work. For example, I could say, okay, this is the key SQL statement. If you can reduce, the logical IOs by this much or this percentage, it's going to drop your CPU utilization this much. And then you can always, you get more throughput. It can go back up. I mean, I could play all those games like that because I knew the math, behind all that. And so that was kind of an interesting thing. That's like a cross discipline. That's always served me really well. So. Yeah.
Excellent. There were also a lot of the same metrics too involved in the analysis and also the projection.
Yeah, which has been really good. That's why I still, even with the machine learning, it's all Oracle related some way or right now, because that seems to be where that's kind of my sweet spot, just because of the Oracle background. Yeah, it's like the domain expertise, you call that, right? Yeah. So you just leverage that. It's really hard to learn something completely new. Like I said, oh, I want to be a lawyer, get my law degree. I'm like, well, one, I probably couldn't, I can't read that much stuff that fast.
A coworker who did that.
I'll remember it, but that would be like a complete start over. That I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, that's the.
No.
But there are pivots you can do.
Yeah, the pivot, that's the right word. Yeah, pivot.
Yeah,
you
and
can
it's
pivot.
like, I'm already a pilot.
Yeah,
Okay. Retire, fly banners.
yeah,
I know the steps I have to take. It is not a major
yeah,
change.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roger, you have your sawmill.
Oh, yeah. That would be a lot of fun.
Really? I did not know that. Man, so you
Oh,
cut
yeah,
slabs of wood and stuff like that?
Yeah, I cut trees. Well, usually I take trees that have fallen already due to storms, and then I bring them over to my sawmill. I got a big stack of logs that I need to get going on.
You know what? I'm actually going to go buy a slab of wood. I'm on a card table desk right now. The whole thing vibrates. Probably see everything shaking, and I'm going to get just a slab with one end is like the tree, right? The outside of it.
Yeah,
And
the live.
mount that.
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Craig, load it up on the back of your truck or get an F-150, drive it to Roger's place in North Carolina, can finish it and then drive it home, and your wife will love it. And then she will want one as a dinner table.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he'll probably buy one that's kiln dried though, so it won't warp as easily.
Yeah, I don't know. They must be dried because they're like, you go to this place in the Portland area and they have like slabs. Actually, my daughter did that. It was like this solid, it's like this thick. It's heavier than all get out.
Yeah,
but it's
You'll
gorgeous
need
though.
carry it.
It's so beautiful. Oh yeah, the wood grain and all that kind of thing. So that's what I'm going to be. Hopefully tomorrow, actually, I might be able to get one. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
Wait for months. Anyways, that's some of the stories. I mean, I get other ones, but in terms of the stories I actually screwed up, those are probably the big ones right there. Yeah.
Well, those are the fun ones where you actually screwed up.
I got way more fun. The ones that will actually make you laugh and stuff like that. I've had like guys we thought were dead in cars and stuff like that. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's that time I was almost arrested in Moscow.
That's kind of scary.
He doesn't go there anymore, needless to say.
There's a reason I do not go to Moscow anymore. There's a very good reason.
Okay, here you go. I'm not planning on going.
That's the cliffhanger for the next war story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a Moscow war story, thankfully.
I have a Vaclav war story. No, if I tell that one, somebody we all know, may not be happy.
Yeah, don't do that then. You got other stories.
Yeah, see, there was that weekend in Tijuana when I was like 19. No, I'm not going to tell that story. We have, we may have children in the audience.
Or adults who really don't want to hear about your sordid story when you're 19. Yeah. Well, we have time. I do have a pretty good one.
Go for it.
Okay. So I've told this in my classes over the years, and this is probably one of the most bizarrest story. And it's a multi-year, span story. So this is when I did I was in that it was like a SWAT team. Like, a big customer was upset with Oracle. They'd call Larry. He's the kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then it worked on down to my boss, and he'd call me usually on a Saturday or a Friday. He's like, okay, Craig, your mission next week is to, get your tickets, you're going, kind of thing. And it was Oracle Manufacturing, one of the first, live implementations. And it was a big manufacturing floor. It wasn't like a warehouse. It was they were building circuit boards, or they were putting PCs together. I don't want to say who it was and stuff, but that's what they did. And there were like 300 people on the manufacturing floor, and the Oracle system was so slow they actually just sent them all home. 300 people, right? So they were not happy, but there's a problem though. When from like my perspective, if everybody goes home and nobody's using the system, like how do I get data, kind of thing, right? There was no AWR at the time. They had some well, no, they didn't have StatsPack because we had our own scripts. So what happened? So they came back to work, the next day, whatever. Because I said, hey, we need some data. I we don't have any data. So, we loaded on our scripts, and we had a little toolkit. You could download it. We put it on the internet. Anybody could grab it. And it was like a stats pack kind of E-stat, B-stat, remember, kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah, I remember
Oh
those.
yeah. So like every probably, I don't know, half hour, we took snapshots or something like that. And we just stored those. And then in an Oracle database, in the production system. And then we just have some scripts we would just go through. It was all time series kind of data. And we could tell, like, exactly, what was going on and do our analysis. And so, things were, it was collecting, as soon as your data are being collected, we're like, oh, okay, because you do nothing without the data, right? So the data was collecting for a few hours and then just stopped. We're like, what? Okay, so we started again. This was like no hup. I mean, it was a command line. It was a shell script. It was not rocket science. It's SQL plus, it was just like, that's weird. So we launched it again and went for a couple hours and stopped. And we said, well, let's look at the log and what's going on. And we're like, what's going on, And then we were just talking about it because, we didn't have root access. A lot of times we had root access. We did back then, but we didn't. And we couldn't figure out, there was like no trace of what happened. Like this looked like it just stopped. And we're like, there's no way this can just stop. This is like a while loop in a bourne shell script. I mean, there's like no reason for this thing just to stop.
Ran out of disk space.
No, man, it was crazy. And so, okay, so there was an OS admin there. Now you remember, Seinfeld, who was what was the guy's name? They were like, what's his name? Not Marvin, what's his name? Oh man, if I know the name, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyways, he looked just like the super irritating guy. All right. and his name, oh dang, what's his name? Anyway, well, we gave him a nickname, which that very unprofessional. We've never done that since. But we called him, whatever this name was. I'll just call him Mervin, but I don't know what it was. I forget what the name was from Seinfeld. And we said, like, it's Mervin. And we looked at each other and we said, you know what? It could be this guy. And then, okay, now why did we think that? Because when I first got there, I sat down, the OS admin was there, and the Oracle guy, Oracle sales guy was there, the vendor sales guy was there, everybody was in this table. And I said, so I just asked him, I said, so like, what's the bottleneck? And I wanted to know, was it CPU, IO network and all that? And he looked at me and said, there is no bottleneck. It's all Oracle.
Oh,
I'm thinking, okay, now we know. Thank you for putting your cards on the table. We are not on the same team here, guys. And so that's why I said, I think it might be this guy. So we're going to lay a trap for this guy. Now, meanwhile, we're being billed by the hour to lay a trap for the company's operating system admin for this thing. He's got root access. That's why we think he could just kill it and cover up his tracks. He knew what to do. And so before we restarted it again, I kind of, walked into his office and I said, hey, we're having our data collection stuff it stopped twice, and we're not sure what's going on. And I remember he looked at me, he says, what's wrong with your script? I'm like, kind of thing. And I said, well, I just want to let you know that if it fails again, like we can't get a data, we can't do our job. The system's going to behave just like it always has unless we can look at it. And people aren't going to be happy about that. So it needs to run, and as the mean look that I could possibly get, which is not very mean. It basically said, you know what, we know you're doing it. We don't know how you're doing it, but if you screw it up, you're going to hurt more than us here. Okay, that kind of thing. And so it never stopped again. Okay, never stopped again. Now, that was like the end of the story, right? Well, a few years later, I got a number of stories in this one client too. It's like the best story generation place ever. So I was telling this story to a classroom and to the class, and this guy comes up to me at one of the breaks. He says, I know who you're talking about. And I said, really? And then he says, did you hear what happened? I'm like, what do you mean what happened? To the OS admin, to whatever his name was. And I said, no. I said, well, he got fired from embezzling from the company. He was like stealing the parts on the manufacturing floor and like selling them on eBay. And they caught him, so they fired the guy. I'm like, okay, that fits the profile. This is the kind of guy that we're dealing with here. Yeah. So that was actually, that was pretty not satisfying, but it was interesting that right away we knew this guy was, you know, he was more than not happy. He might have been getting a lot of the heat from the OS side, because I think it's, I don't know whether it was CPU, I don't know if it was CPU or IO. It was one of those two, what was the issue. And of course, he was in charge of it all, the IO subsystems. You know, it was a Sequent computer. Remember Sequent, right?
Oh yeah.
Based on, so it was a screaming computer. I mean, it was really a great, you know, system for what they were doing. But I learned a lot about people on that in that engagement, and you got to watch out for some people. But sometimes you got to walk in the off and say say what I said. But it wasn't like I wasn't being a butthead or something. I was just telling the guy that, you know, we actually need this to do our jobs. It's in both our best interest if I actually get some data, kind of thing. So anyways, so I call that, no, that's not the dead guy. That's just, I don't know what story. But I thought the funniest part about that is when some guy came up to me and says, I know who you're talking about. That was great. Just by the description of the person, he figured out who it was. That was good. Yeah, that was good. So, oh, that was related to that last. This is great. That was the only time I saw a customer grab the tie. We all wore ties back then. He grabbed the tie of the Oracle sales guy. Literally, he pulled him over the screen. He says, press this key right here, press that. Yes. And he says, you see how long that's taken? That's a problem. I mean, literally, he was pulled. I saw the whole thing. And our group is, and we're like traumatized, thinking, you know, like, we're next. I mean, it came unglued, right? The reason, because 300 people, right, got sent home. So you ever seen that movie where they put like a for sale sign on like the coach's lawn because he's losing all the high school football games? Okay, this was a small town. So the sign was going to go in this guy's lawn because 300 people is a significant portion of the people in that town. And they, you know, they're going to shut down the plant or I'll have to get laid off or something if this isn't fixed. So he was under some serious stress and it boiled over to the Oracle sales guy. So, okay, that's it. No, but this story continues, but that'll be part 2. So yeah, crazy stuff. It's been a fantastic journey doing Oracle work though. Super good.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. I think my funniest story would have been something similar, but the 300 people was, it was back when I was working for Canon, and there was a controller to the mainframe and everybody else was on terminals down in Washington. The mainframe was in New York, and that controller kept going down.
Ooh.
And when the controller went down, we had 300 people basically doing this.
Yeah.
And
It's
I remember it's expensive. And I remember the director of IT in New York called me up and says, we have to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Look at what it's costing us. And that's the first time, I think I was in my 20s at the time. I mean, you don't think about, you know, that bigger picture.
Yeah.
And he goes, what is the burn rate? And I'm like going, wow. Yeah, we have to solve this problem.
Once you figure that out,
yeah,
like, well, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you realize you should be charging more for being there because you're saving them thousands and thousands of dollars by getting the system running faster, fixed or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a funny story to go to that, how I left Canon and went to Oracle.
Yeah.
And what Canon was paying me. And Canon, great corporation. I loved working for them because they love sending me to training.
Oh,
okay.
awesome. Yeah.
That I loved. And I loved working my boss who said, you are now our Oracle wizard.
Yeah.
but what they were paying me versus what the industry was paying there was this big discrepancy.
Ooh.
So, which is another story.
Yes, those are interesting stories too.
Mhm.
Actually, yeah, all the stuff.
Mhm.
Well, hey guys, thanks for having me. So
Craig, thank
we could
you.
talk for like hours, man.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah,
you
but
guys
I
gonna
already,
be at the conferences coming up?
I'm going to be in Utah.
You're gonna be Utah? How about
Mhm.
Arma? You can be at
Rocky Mountain, but I'm doing remotely, presenting remotely.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, see how that goes. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting couple of conferences coming up here. Yeah.
Yeah, about half their people are attending remotely also.
Yeah. Well, good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's tough though. You know, you miss the personal stuff. Yeah. People are so, yeah, we need more personal contact. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, the first in person I did like in the US was ECO. It wasn't the last, it was the one before the last one like that. It was amazing. I mean, people were practically in tears. You know, you could actually kind of touch people, you know, and give them a
I'm not
hug.
sure. I'm honestly not sure I know how to behave in public anymore.
It's weird sometimes. People are out of practice. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I hope we make it
Craig,
work.
thank you very much for joining us.
No, you're welcome, you guys. Thanks for having this podcast. This is awesome.
All right. Listen, Roger, Craig.
All right. Until next time, folks.
All
Thank-
All
right.
right.
Till next time. We'll see you guys.
All right. Mañana. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.